We're live. Welcome,
Yes.
everyone. This is an amazing conversation called What Gary and Grace Have Taught Me About Class. Not classes, but being classy. And I'm joined with my amazing friend and telecall co host, Tereska Dobrotova. So, welcome.
Yes. Hello, everyone.
Hey,
Happy
guys.
Saturday.
Yes. So, we wanted to talk about this because Gary and Grace are co-facilitating a telecall coming up on November 22nd, so just under a week. And it is called How to Be a Class Act, and it's a three-part Zoom series with Gary and Grace. And Tereska and I just we were starting to think about all the amazing things that Gary and Grace have taught us in this area, and I think it is just phenomenal, amazing, formidable, wonderful, and incredible how much my life has changed because I grew up on a farm and I thought that I had no class whatsoever. And Grace and Gary are just have such a different way of being with class and elegance. And I've asked both of them so many questions about, you know, how did you create that? Or how do you have a house like that? Or how do you dress like that? Or because it's just a lovely energy. And my energy is slightly different, as is yours, Treska. But it's like they have been so um important for me in my life because I love elegance and I love class, but I didn't have anybody to teach me. And they were willing to teach me and show me a whole new magical world of beauty. So
Hmm.
that's sort of my joy and my excitement about this whole topic.
Thank you so much for sharing. So for me, I did not grow up in a farm. I would say I grew up in an intellectual family that was not
And you
maybe
had
rich.
like a nanny and you actually grew up sort of in more of a upper class environment, right?
We could call it like that. Yeah, yeah. And I remember as a child, I always, ever since going to school, I started resenting it, or I didn't want to look like I was classy because it made me
Wow.
feel so different. I always wanted just a normal clothes, just a normal toys, and wanted to look like everybody else because children were picking on me. Do you say it like that in English? Making fun of me. I was too different. Why are you dressing up as a painter? When I had a barrette. Do you look like a painter? So they were making fun of me a lot, and I just wanted to be like them. So um, for years and years and years, I didn't want to hear about any of that, and it actually started coming back as I started taking classes, access classes, and listening to Gary and also Grace and Dane and other facilitators. And I actually realized how much I've missed all of that. And I actually like it. I like elegance, I like class. So that's when I started rediscovering it. And I never really lost it, but I pretended like it's not my world,
That
you know?
is so interesting, and
Hmm.
it's so funny because we always want what we don't have as kids. Because I just wanted to be, living it with servants and high class
Mm,
and all the princess and everything that you read in storybooks. It's just
yeah.
really interesting. And you're at the castle right now too, which is one of the most
Exactly.
beautiful places on the planet. When
And
I'm
you realize how much it inspires you. A place can inspire you. I always leave as a different person whenever I'm here, whether it's for a day or more days.
Me too. It's
This place
so
changes.
wonderful.
Hmm.
It when I was at the castle, it really I felt like I was being me more than I had ever been me before in my life because there was such a in this world, there's such a, like this, like people associate with elegance and class. But at the castle, it's not like that at all. There's this inclusiveness and this kindness with the level of elegance and finesse and beauty that's everywhere. And I just absolutely love that about the castle. It's like everyone feels included, and
Mm.
yet it's still the best of the best, and it's just so nurturing to be
Mm.
caressed in that way.
Exactly what you're saying also about the fact, for me before it was about, oh, it's etiquette, moral, and you kind of need to be uptight. But here I'm realizing that it's the opposite. It's about relaxation, it's about receiving. And yeah, it's it's wonderful. And I always, get inspired, or also the conversations that you can have with people in places like this are different. I get, so um I just enjoyed so much. And what would it take to have this everywhere you go? Like, you don't
Yeah,
need necessarily to go to a place, but as Gary actually says about El Lugar, and this is kind of an El Lugar of Italy as well, a very, very special place. You can then take it with you anywhere.
yeah. One of the things that Grace Douglas has really taught me, and I think I was telling you part of the story before, Tereska, a week ago or so, is that um, at my first maestro class, which was in Rome in 2015, Grace Douglas was there, and she just had her first son. Maybe he was 3 years old or something like that, and she looked so elegant, just like the picture of class and beauty. And she was wearing this beautiful black skirt and a white t-shirt tucked in with black high heels. And it was just, there was something about the flow of the skirt. And we were in Italy, and we were in a very beautiful hotel in Italy. And the way that the skirt flowed, it was just something that I'll never forget. It was so beautiful and elegant. And and at the etiquette class, I asked Grace about that skirt, like, you know, that was just one of the most elegant and beautiful clothing items that I've ever seen. And she was teaching me about how, like, different designers create different energies and different ways of doing makeup and all kinds of different things. And it was like, for me, one of the best things was, like, Grace and I, like, I text her sometimes and ask her different things about beauty and elegance. And, like, I sent her a pair of boots once, and I'm like, "I like these boots, but I also don't like them, but I don't know why." And she'd be like, "Well, the toe looks kind of oddly long." I'd be like, "The toe looks kind of oddly long." And I was like, "Oh my god, that's what it is." And, like, for me, it's like it starts to, like, tune me into my own taste and, like, my own
Mm.
ideas of what I can create. And we have a living room in our house with 18-foot ceilings, which is maybe, I don't know how many that is. It's a lot of meters. It's like the big room in the castle almost. And and we decorated it, and I thought that it looked absolutely horrible. We've spent all this money on these curtains, and they look like they were from a funeral home, like a Catholic funeral home in 1980s New York City Italian funeral home in Queens, New York. I was like, "Oh my god, what have we done?" And we spent, like, thousands of dollars on these curtains, and I was like, "This is horrible." And then we painted the walls this horrible yellow to match the curtains, and I was like, "What are we gonna do?" And it was gonna cost a lot of money to redecorate. So I went in there, and I started doing an SOP session, and then Anthony was talking with Gary on the phone, and I said, "Gary, can I please ask you how to decorate this room? Because this room is so ugly." And he said, "Julia, do light blue, light pink, and some beiges in this room." And so I said, "Okay." And then I was out at a store, and I saw this beautiful display, and it was this light blue and light pink cushions with on a beige couch, and I thought, that is the most beautiful thing I have ever seen in my life. And then I realized, like, months later, I took a picture of it, and I realized that's the exact color scheme that Gary told me about how to do the couch. And I was like, that's amazing. But it was like interior, it was like Gary was being like an interior decorator based on the energy of me as a being. Like he knew more than me what I thought was beautiful. Like
Mm.
he has like facilitated me by going into my being and knowing like these are the kind of energies. Like each of us has our own colors and our own lines and our own like elements that like are congruent with us as a being and are going to make us feel really comfortable and really have like a sense of beauty and possibilities. And so, like, when he was giving me advice about how to decorate my living room, he was looking at me as a being and facilitating me based on that. Like, any other decorator would do it based on logic or fashion or trends. And he was looking at me as a being and like what I desired. And it just like changed my world. And now it's like, now after doing the SOP on it and working with Gary, it's like one of the most beautiful rooms. I just love going in there. And we got a big chandelier that's like 1.5 meters wide. And it's just so much fun and so much joy. And for me, based on how I grew up, that's something that I thought I could never have, that I would never like really like that to enjoy beauty and to enjoy elegance was kind of frowned upon based on the way that I grew up. So for me, learning about this and learning about my tastes and my colors and like the class and the beauty that I would like to live with has been so like actually like healing for my being to be able to really um have that acknowledged when my whole life it was not acknowledged by anyone and not taught to me and actually quite frowned upon, to actually have that beauty and elegance um acknowledged and received and given to me is just one of the greatest gifts of my life, honestly. I wake up in the morning and the crystals from the chandelier just shine all over my house and I'm just like, wow, I live in one of the most beautiful spaces ever. And I'm like, I created this. And my questions and my choices and the contributions of Gary and Grace have allowed this to be possible, you know?
Wow, I could listen to you even longer. That's so beautiful. And just an amazing example of how things can change, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, from the funeral home, and I had some family members when I decorated with the ugly curtains. I mean, that was more than anybody had ever, like, I think it was $4,500 on the curtains, which is just out
Mm.
of out of this world for anybody that I've ever really known growing up. And I had a family member make me very wrong for changing the curtains. They were like, "You have to just live with them. You have to just live with it. It was so expensive." And then when I changed it, it was like so out of their reality, you know? And
Mhm.
it's like you have to be willing to kind of, if you hate something, you have to be willing to just get rid of it, you know? And that's a really
Yeah.
important tool. It's sort of like the Buddhist, you know, they make the mandala and then they just get rid of it, you know? And it's like if we create something in our life that we don't like, it's okay to just get rid of it and keep improving. There was a telecall I was listening to with Gary and Dane, a very old Creative Edge, and they were talking about constantly upgrading your life. So it's like with everything in your life, how can I upgrade this? How can I
Mhm.
upgrade this? Like with your car, with your coffee, with your bed, with your clothes, with everything that you do, your travel, and not from what you're doing now is wrong, never from the judgment, but like, okay, I'd like to have something greater. How can I upgrade this? And that was a really nice tool.
Wow, thank you for that inspiration. I like it. It is like an addition for me to the how does it get any better question, upgrade has
Yeah.
another thing to it,
Yeah,
plus.
exactly.
And I love the title of the upcoming telecall series with Gary and Grace, How to Live as a Class Act. What if it doesn't need to be something that we just have for special occasions like this elegance or beauty? You know how some people put their best china in the cupboard and never touch it? and they
Yes.
don't drink with it, but also this castle is showing me, oh, you can drink from a beautiful cup. Or whenever I see some pictures of Gary in a veteran car, for example, that's also for me. Oh, this is classy. That's class. And I also enjoy how each one of us has a different take on this. It's something
Yes.
different for you, something different for me, but
Yes.
all of us can have more of it in our lives and even like function in day to day with people, with everything. What if we allowed ourselves to live and function as a class act and elegantly? So
Yeah.
I am so excited.
Yeah, me too. And I think it's actually a really difficult topic for a lot of people
Mm,
because I think the majority of people feel excluded from elegance or classiness. And so, if that's something that is for you, those of you who are listening, it's like, um, this is with such a kindness and such a softness and such a different possibility that I see so many people tuning out. Like, I've facilitated a lot of classes on elegance and beauty and just like how I've created my reality with that and continue to. And like one thing that I'm doing right now is I got into watercolor painting. I think you saw this, Tereska.
mhm,
And right now I'm working on some leaves and a sky, and it's gonna have some flowers and birds and just all kinds of just different cute things that are really fun for me. But like that's part of the beauty. Like what beauty and magic are you not willing to let out into the world because you've sort of defined it into that's above me, I don't fit in there. But I find that a lot of people actually have a really difficult time with these type of topics because
mhm,
it's something that in this world has a lot of judgment and we feel really excluded from. So this is actually one of the most amazing places to come and actually start to learn and include yourself in this type of learning, and you never know what you're going to find in your own being that you've
mhm.
never accessed in your own being. So,
Yeah.
yeah, awesome. Thank you, Tereska.
Thank you, Julia.
And thank you, everybody else out there in the world. What kind of elegance can you create? And what if you could have the level of beauty that you've always known is possible but haven't yet actualized? All right. See you guys next time. Thanks, Tereska. Bye,
Thank
everybody.
you. Bye bye.